Bring Kurt Bardella in, News Nation political contributor, Democratic strategist. Kurt is going to play the role, sort of Kamala Harris today, I figured. Since we didn't get the interview, I said, well, I'll ask Kurt the questions, because you know what? She has to stand for the questions. So instead of questions for Kamala, it'll be questions for Kurt. Let me make a point here first. So to me, and we'll bring it up on the tablet first, just her stances on issues is what I'm sure they're going to focus. They're going to say, here's what you said then, here's what you're saying now on fracking. First of all, energy policy. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking, she said in 2019 ahead of her 2020 run for president. But now a spokesperson said she would not ban fracking. On the border, back then, as I said, Trump's border wall is a complete waste of taxpayer money. Won't make us any safer on Facebook in 2020. But now, at the DNC, at her convention speech as president, I'll bring back the bipartisan security bill that he killed, meaning Trump, and I'll sign it into law. All right, long way of saying question one for you, question for Kamala, question for Kurt. Here it is. You've changed your position on these key issues, fracking, Medicare for all is another one, border security. How can you explain these changes anything other than political expediency? How do you handle it, Kurt?
Well, I think that if you're Vice President Harris, you go out there and you say, listen, I've had positions when I was the Attorney General of California, when I was Senator from California, where my responsibility was to the constituency of California, which would absolutely support a ban of fracking off the coast of California, or oil drilling for that matter. This has been an issue recurring throughout California's history. Mm-hmm. Of course, now, as your Vice President, I've had 4 years, basically, to look at this from a national lens for the good of the entire country.
She was running for president, right, on the fracking comment. She was running for president then.
Yeah. And again, but I think that her perspective was at that point in time as the experience of a California senator, California attorney general, when she prosecuted some of these cases and brought cases challenging Obama era rules, it was through that lens of representing that state and their interests. And I think that, again, what experience is experience. And when you have that, it does change how you view some of these broader issues from a national lens. And I think that we should want leaders that are willing to get more information, get more facts, get more knowledge, and calibrate their positions for the time that we're in right now. My way or the highway is dead-end leadership. If you're refusing to adapt with the times, right, kind of like the Republican Party is on a number of issues, you look like you are out of touch with what the American experience really is. If I'm Kamala Harris, I say, I'm willing to say, I've learned more. I can do better. I can evolve. It's the other party that seems afraid of that.
Right. That's the evolution rather than the flip-flopping argument that you hear from politicians. I want to go to question number two because I'm curious to see how much they dig in on the economy. I'm certainly interested in it. It's the number one issue out there. To Harris, your economic plan promises a crackdown on price gouging. So how exactly do you define price gouging? What is it? And I think it's important. Which metrics will your administration use to actually take action on this? What should she say?
The answer there is very simple. When you look at what the Biden-Harris administration has done, for instance, changing the price of insulin so that it is manageable and accessible to everyone who needs it, that same standard should apply to the everyday American things that we need, whether it's milk, eggs.
But what's the measurement? Is it a percentage or what's the measurement on that?
I think the measurement is a percentage. We're talking about a time where CEOs, executives, Fortune 500 companies, stockholders are getting richer while the rest of us are paying their tab. That's an inequity that we need to change. And so you have to look at if you're charging X over Y and you're still making gobs of profit, that needs to be recalibrated. And there needs to be a formula in place that defines that for everybody that is an equal standard.
Question 3 of 3, then you're off the hook for now. She's not, but you are. Foreign policy, how would you approach the war in Gaza differently, it's the key word, than President Biden?
Well, I think part of that depends on what we're inheriting. Should President Harris assume office in January 2025? Will there have been a negotiated ceasefire, for instance, at that point in time? We certainly all hope that that's the goal. That regardless what party you're in, you should want that to happen. If that isn't the case, if the conflict is pretty much where we're at right now, this kind of stalemate, I think that there needs to be a more aggressive posture for the United States that, as president, I will lead. To compel these parties to come to the table more in good faith. And that's take advantage of the relationships we have with the Middle East. That's utilizing Egypt, bringing people to the table. And if not, then we're going to have to look at things like sanctions to get them to the table.
This is a campaign stop, by the way, that Kamala Harris is making right now. Live pictures from Georgia. Remember, she has this rally we showed you in the Savannah area. She taped the interview at a restaurant or a cafe, and now she's stopped at another one. Before we take a break here, Kurt, what about this actual strategy this week from Harris? We've been highlighting the fact that instead of going just to Atlanta and Metro Atlanta and all the counties around there and trying to turn out the vote in those populous areas, she's going to other parts of Georgia, a state where, again, as I said at the top of the show, she's down 2 or 3 points in the average, but this poll that just came out today from the Hill, she's actually up 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen really now for a couple of election cycles, when you factor in the special elections that Raphael Warnock had to participate in, Democrats have overperformed in Georgia now for the last 2.5 years. The only way to maintain that is to keep not doing just the obvious things of hanging out in Metro Atlanta, but going out into the suburbs, of trying to grow your coalition. And again, you have to invite people to participate. You have to let people know that this is the party that says the more the merrier. Big tent party. That used to be the Republican Party, but today the Republican Party is very much, if you're not with us, you're against us. You're our enemy, and we're coming for you. Harris has the opportunity to go into those communities and say, listen, we may not agree on everything, but there are areas we can find common ground. And if you can focus on those areas, we can all do this together. And I think that's a really attractive message at this point in time for a lot of people.
Right now being delivered in Savannah, Georgia, Chatham County, Georgia. Kurt Bardella is staying with us as our coverage here of this campaign. Both parties continues this hour. Back to former President